You're listening to WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, Singles Talk Radio channel, where we take a lighthearted and candid approach to discussions on the journey of relationship loss, divorce, parenting, being single, relationships building, dating, and yes, sex. Join our listeners and begin living your best life.
Welcome to Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living with your host, Rosalind Sedacca. Join Rosalind each week on a journey toward overcoming life's many challenges to achieve peace, empowerment, and positive transformation. It's time to relax, unwind, and transform your life with Rosalind Sedacca.
Hello, everyone. This is Rosalind Sedacca, founder of the Child-Centered Divorce Network, and you're listening to WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network. And the show is Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living with Rosalind Sedacca. Today I'm going to be talking about important questions that divorcing and divorced parents should ask themselves to create the best outcome for their children. And that's before, during, and long after the divorce. Because when you're a parent, divorce doesn't have a beginning and an ending. It's a process, and it's one that's going to last the rest of your life if you're a parent. So you want to be really, really careful that you have the skills and the caring and the communication ability to talk not only to your co-parent but to all of your children to make sure that things are going smoothly, that they're not hiding things, and that they're feeling safe and secure and protected during and after the divorce. So I want to talk about some of the important questions you can be asking yourself during this process so that you make the best decisions for your children and that your children aren't emotionally scarred by the divorce process. And the truth is they don't have to be. That divorce is something that in some families can be a smooth transition, can actually be a better outcome because there's less conflict and the children aren't exposed to tension or parents fighting all the time. And in other cases, it can be just the relief of being out of a situation that had been going on for too long. But if parents misbehave, and I mean don't respect one another enough to act as parents and have the maturity to act as parents, then the children can still be exposed to conflict and tension and aggravation and fears and anxieties every time the parents are near each other, every time the parents are talking on the phone, every time there's a pickup from one home to the other, every time there's a holiday or a birthday or an occasion when the children and the parents may be crossing paths, and that's a disgrace that we want to avoid. So I want to really help you understand that every decision you make as a parent, every decision you make in parenting is impacting your children and is role modeling for them how you as an adult are handling the challenges and the realities that are inevitable for anyone going through life. Divorce is just another level of challenge and difficulty that has to be overcome, but life is filled with them, and you want to be able to give your children the best possible outcome by being the best role model you can be, by handling difficulty and challenges with a level of maturity, dignity, grace, and respect that your children deserve to see, that they can emulate. So in the time we have together, let's talk about some of the really crucial questions that you and your co-parent, your ex, can get together to talk about. And if your co-parent, your ex, your former partner is not willing to talk with you about it, you could share these questions with them, or you could just handle it yourself and ask yourself these questions, because these are questions that are impacting you and your relationship with your children, regardless of the relationship that the other parent has with their children. So one of the most important questions you can be asking yourself is, how can we make life better for our children after the divorce than it was before the divorce? because let's face it, in so many cases, life was not great for the kids. Kids innately pick up on tension and stress, and even if the home is quiet and not filled with arguments and conflict, it could be a place where the parents are just walking around like robots, sleepwalking through the marriage, sleepwalking through the parenting, and just avoiding one another. And kids pick up on that just as much as they pick up on tension and conflict that's loud and abrasive. Either way, it's an environment that children aren't happy at and at peace at. So often just changing the family dynamic after the divorce can open the door to more peace and less conflict in the home environment. And that's what we're hoping. That's why divorce can often be a better outcome for everyone in the family. But it's important that we step up as parents and be more relaxed, more calm, and less agitated around the kids in the past. So ask yourself, can we both do that? Can I do that and be an example for my co-parent to do that? What do I need to do and change to make things different when it comes to just my state of mind, my calmness, my relaxation, my state of happiness around the kids? At the same time, ask yourself this: can we give our children more focused attention than we were in the past? Perhaps the pre-divorce attention was so strident that the kids were being ignored, or the family life was being ignored because there were so many details you were attending to, or so much conflict around the home. And now you want to be able to give your children more focused attention, more alone time with each of them. Maybe you weren't giving your children enough time because there was so much adult issues that were taking up your attention, and now you can be there again for them. And if your divorce leads to shared parenting time, co-parenting time, when the children are in one house for X number of days or weeks and then in the other house for another period of time, what are you going to be doing to give your children the best situation during that alone time with them? When you have those children together with you, or that child together with you, how are you going to show them your attention? Getting off the phone, getting off tablets and electronics, and just being with them, spending time with them, playing games with them, helping them with homework, answering questions for them, just showing that they matter. And related to this is the question, can we reduce stress and find ways to tap into more joy in their lives? Your children deserve more joy in their life than they had previously, before the divorce or during the divorce. What can you do to resolve that, to provide less stress and more joy for them? What changes can you make in your routine, in the structure of life, in the way you parent after the divorce? And if you're parenting and you're alone in one house and away from your former partner, what things can you do? Can you create new things to do, new activities at home or outside of the home, new places to go, new places to play, new adventures to create together? Think about a starting over strategy that's new and different, something that the kids can look forward to and bring more joy in their life. Joy doesn't mean buying and purchasing things. It doesn't mean going to Disneyland every week. It means small, subtle things, just giving them your time and attention, just answering questions for them, asking them questions, going outside and enjoying nature, taking photographs, doing what they like to do and doing it with them. So all of that falls into the category of making life better for your children after the divorce than it was before the divorce. Another question: what can we do to boost our children's sense of security, self-esteem, and well-being during the transitions ahead? So you may be going through the divorce, or you may be going through the post-divorce co-parenting stage where you're learning to make the rules and the schedules and finding out how it's going to work for the children living in the two different homes or being in a new neighborhood or in a new school or whatever the environment is, and you want to make that transition as easy as possible for everyone, especially the children. And their sense of security, self-esteem, and well-being is really, really important at this time. So are you making decisions that are fostering goodwill and harmony and cooperation in both parent homes? Think about the specific things you can do in each parent's home that's going to make the children feel good, safe, secure, protected, and desired. Don't let your children feel like they're a burden or an obligation to you, because sometimes children pick up on that when they see their parents overwhelmed with stress. Don't let your children feel that. And how can you cooperate during the pick-up transitions with one another from one child to the other, or changing schedules because life always imposes changes, and are you going to make those changes cooperatively so that you do favors for one another as co-parents? How can you reduce the conflict around the kids and provide activities and communication that support the children in feeling safe and cared about? So if you have conflict, keep it away from the kids. That means not on the phone, not in the next room, not in the car. You want to keep the conflict in an environment where the children are not around at all. And you don't want to be having the kids in the house while you're venting to a friend or neighbor who's sitting in the living room with you, and there you go talking about the other him or her, who talking about them as if they're the enemy within earshot of the children. So you have to be very, very careful. You're protecting your children's sense of well-being. This is a very important thing you're protecting. It isn't something to take lightly. And we want your kids to feel that they belong, that they're welcome, that they're part of your life, and that they are an integral part of your new life after divorce. And, of course, you never want them to feel that they're in the way, that you want to be dating or doing things with other people and they're a burden to you. You always want to be talking to your children, about your children, and around your children in ways that make them feel valued. And here's another question. Will our children respect us when they're adults for the way we handle the divorce? That is so important. I'm going to repeat that. Will our children respect us when they're adults for the way we handled the divorce? Believe me, adult children of divorce are very outspoken about how the divorce experience affected their lives. And there are articles and books and podcasts for and about adult children of divorce who vent and express their anger and their frustration and their hurt and their shame for having the experiences that they did. This doesn't have to happen. Your family doesn't have to be among those who are riddled with pain and anger and resentment after the divorce from the children. But the question needs to be asked now. Will our children respect us when they're adults for the way we handle the divorce? You need to be asking one another that question with your co-parent now so that you get an answer that works, so that you both feel you are being respectful parents, good role models, people that your children look up to, and that you're showing them that conflict can be overcome, that difficult decisions can be handled with grace, that even when you have someone who disagrees with you, it doesn't mean that life is over, that there's ways of finding ways to agree, to disagree without being disagreeable, or to agree to cooperatively find solutions, or to alternate ways of whose turn it is to get their way for a certain situation. It's all about realizing that this is a long-term marathon. It's not a sprint when you're co-parenting, and because it's a long-term marathon, you want to start with good footing and then you want to take it smoothly and easily for the long run, because your children are going to change as they age. Their values, their interests, their perception is going to change, and you need to change with them and with that and adapt accordingly in the way you handle every facet of divorce. So it's very important that you understand that and that you honor the reality that you're not in this alone, you're in this with a co-parent and with the children that you love. We're going to stop for a moment right here for me to remind you that you're listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network, Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living with Rosalind Sedacca. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Rosalind Sedacca on the Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living show, and you're listening on WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network. This is Rosalind Sedacca. I'm founder of the Child-Centered Divorce Network, and you can find help and support during and long after divorce at childcentereddivorce.com. That's childcentereddivorce.com, and right on the home page, you can enter your email address and get a free ebook on post-divorce parenting, success strategies for getting it right, and that book will get you started on the right path to really making good decisions during and after divorce so that you can have a positive co-parenting experience. So we've been talking about questions that co-parents should ask themselves about how to handle divorce effectively so that they can give their children the best outcome, especially after the divorce. And there's another question that I want you to keep in mind, and that is, how can we best support our children and minimize the physical, emotional, and spiritual damage inflicted upon them as the result of our divorce? I'll repeat that. How can we best support our children and minimize the physical, emotional, and spiritual damage inflicted upon them as a result of our divorce? Even if you don't intend to harm your children, divorce is a very difficult process for children to go through. It's something that they didn't ask for. They're always innocent victims, and it's a process that can be very painful, and for some children much more painful than for others, depending on how the parents handle the divorce. You have choices every minute of every day on how you handle that divorce and how you co-parent after it. And so asking yourself the question of how we could best support our children and minimize physical, emotional, and spiritual damage to them is a wonderful way of saying, what can we do now to make up for some of the issues that they had to deal with, some of the experiences that they went through, some of the anger or the shame or the resentment or the guilt that they experienced before and during and after our divorce. So what can you do? There are ways you can support your children and show them that you love them. You could talk to them about the divorce. You can apologize for any hurt and pain they experienced. You could ask them if they have any resentment or anger or guilt or shame about it and acknowledge their feelings and say, yes, I understand exactly why you would be feeling that way. That's totally understandable. Sorry about that. What can we do now to make you feel better? You can get them professional help if they need it, to see a coach or a child psychologist or therapist, or join a divorce group. Some schools have them, some communities or churches have them, so that the children can realize that they're not alone. You want to think with your co-parent, talk about, was there any physical, emotional, or spiritual damage that they experienced? Were they separated from one parent or another for a period of time that they weren't expecting, or that was very painful for them? Did they feel that they were being abandoned, and were they in fear and frightened? Were they hurt, embarrassed, ashamed, resentful by some of the things that you asked them to do or that they saw, and that you need to own and acknowledge or explain why some of those things happened? Be upfront with your children, but keep in mind that you have to only talk to them on an age-appropriate level. We never share adult information with children. Even teens are children in the sense that their brains are not emotionally and psychologically and physically fit for coping with adult challenges. So we don't talk on an adult level with the children, but we can make simple explanations for things because most of the time they need the apology for their hurts. They need their pain acknowledged. Just saying, I can understand how you feel, why you're feeling that way, what can we do to make it better. They're not looking as much for details about the drama as they're looking for help in making them feel better about the situation, and also always reminding your children that they are never at fault. Very often a young child or even a middle school child will say, maybe if I had gotten better grades, maybe if I didn't act out so much, maybe if I hadn't done that last month, Mom and Dad wouldn't be having the divorce. Even if, especially that can be the case if parents have been fighting about the children, which happens very often. You may have been fighting about discipline issues or disagreeing on some options for them in summer school or vacation trips, and the kids pick up on the conflict you're having, and then suddenly the divorce erupts, and they think that if the conflict about them didn't happen, you wouldn't be getting a divorce. So they need to be reassured that the divorce was an adult issue, a totally adult issue that had nothing to do with them as far as fault. And that fighting about children doesn't mean it's the children's fault or that the children were bad. It's just that you had disagreements and you felt you needed to move on in separate homes for life to be better and happier for everyone involved. If you're not sure what to say and how to relate to your children, get the advice and support of a coach who can help you get through and come up with a strategy that's the ideal solution, the ideal answers, the best way to approach talking to your children. There's lots of help out there, and there's lots of expert interviews at childcentereddivorce.com that you could listen to on this topic, many, many, many blog posts and articles. So you have a lot of support in that realm, and you could make sound decisions. Another question I want you to be asking yourselves, together and alone, am I burdening my children with responsibilities only an adult should have to bear? Am I burdening our children with responsibilities only an adult should have to bear? This question addresses the fact that sometimes parents get so overwhelmed with the drama of their divorce that they stop being adults, they stop parenting, and they let their children step up and start parenting their own parents. This happens more often than you can imagine. That means your children are there putting their arms around you and reminding you, it's going to be okay, Mommy. Don't worry about that, Daddy. I'll take care of it. You don't want your children stepping up in the role of being your parents, worrying about you. It's your job to worry about your children, to protect them. They need to know that you're strong. Now, you can show them when you're sad, and you can cry, and you could say that this has been very difficult for me, but you need to step up and then step into the parenting role and let them know that you're strong, that you're in charge, that you're getting help and support from other adults, and you don't need them to be the little mom and dad to step up and take care of you. It's very important that you never burden children with responsibilities that an adult needs to handle, that they shouldn't have that on their heads. And that's why you never want to ask your children to be messengers for you. Remind Daddy that we changed the time on Saturday to 8:30. It's not little Johnny's place, even teenage Johnny's place, to be reminding Daddy about the time change. You have phones, text, scheduling tools. There's many, many resources so that both parents are always on the same page regarding all the nuances of co-parenting. When you ask your children to do that, your children are very aware of mom and dad's likes and dislikes and hurts, and sensitivities, and often they will forget a message, distort the message unintentionally, confuse the message, say it in a different way because they don't want the other parent to be hurt. There's ways that children can get involved that entangle them emotionally in ways they shouldn't be entangled. That means burdening them with responsibilities on an adult's shoulder. Don't let your children be in that position. And then one of the most crucial questions of all is, would I be making these same parenting decisions if we were still married? Or am I allowing my anger or hatred, resentment or pain to affect my judgment and clarity? That means things that come up that normally you two would talk to each other about as parents, are you now making the same decisions as you would be if you were still married? Or are you distorting the decision? And ordinarily you would have said yes, but now you're saying no because you know it's going to hurt your ex. Are you changing your perspective about it and focus more on how it's going to impact your ex and give them more problems than worrying about the impact on your children? The closer you get to keeping your parenting decisions on the same level so that you can feel secure that you're making the same decision you would have always made, the better off your children are, because then you're cooperating as parents. So whether you have a good co-parenting relationship where you literally are talking to your co-parent about important decisions that come along, health decisions, school change decisions, discipline and behavior decisions, whether you're talking directly with them or whether you're making that decision on your own, if you have a co-parent, then you want to be very aware that every decision you make impacts your co-parent as well as your child, and you want to make sure you're not doing that and creating decisions for the wrong motivation because you were trying to guilt or shame or blame or hurt or negate or in some other way negatively affect your co-parent. It's so easy and it's so tempting, and you have to be so mature not to be doing that. But the most important thing is to realize that these are children that you love and that your children are being affected by every decision you make. So let me ask you one more question, and that is, how can we show our love and compassion for our children as they move through these changes they did not ask for or create? How can we show our love and compassion for our children as they move through the challenges that they didn't ask for or create? Your child did not want the divorce. They rarely do. It's something that's imposed on them. They're innocent victims. But you can create an outcome that gives them support and shows them that you love them and that you have compassion for them and respect for them. And you could do that by keeping the conflict away from them, by communicating with them, by being very aware of the nuances and changes of behavior so you catch any emotional or psychological changes very early on. When you could show them that they care, that they matter to you, that you care, that they matter to you, and that what you want to make changes in the relationship you have with them so that the children always feel safe, that they know they're loved, that they know they're protected, and that you're doing what you can to create a better life for everyone in the family in the future. There's ways you can do that, and by talking to them, you could find out what makes them feel good. Sometimes as parents, we assume we know, and we're not always right. So ask your kids, would you prefer to do this or do that? What would you like to do on our next day off? How would you like to spend the vacation? Find ways of compromising with them or offering them choices so that if they don't get what they do want, there may be two other choices that you give them that may be a second best that is good. There's ways of showing your love and compassion so that they know they matter, they count, and they're very important in your life. So obviously there's no simple answers to all of these questions. They're questions to contemplate. And I'm available to talk to you at any point to discuss some of these. And I'm offering a complimentary 30-minute coaching session with me to anyone who's listening to this program and wants to schedule that. You can contact me at Rosalind, ROSALIND, at childcentereddivorce.com, and just put in coaching call in the subject line and remind me that you heard this program, you're interested in a 30-minute complimentary free session, and I'll be happy to schedule that with you. And be sure to go to childcentereddivorce.com to check out all the e-books, e-courses, and e-programs that I have available on parenting and co-parenting, breaking divorce news to the children, dealing with anger management with your co-parent, and other related topics so that you could make the best possible decisions before, during, and long after divorce. Thank you for listening. It's a pleasure talking to you as always. This is Rosalind Sedacca with Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living. You're listening to WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
You're listening to WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, Singles Talk Radio Channel, where we take a lighthearted and candid approach to discussions on the journey of relationship loss, divorce, parenting, being single, relationships building, dating, and yes, sex. Join our listeners and begin living your best life.